it, DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. Yes, we're back. We're back. The Breakfast Bankroll and Big Ten preview with my co-host, good friend and colleague, Mr. Riley Magnuson. We like to call him Southside Riley. And this morning, you would think Southside Riley would be joyous, happy, and free because the Bears shocked the world and Justin Fields of Dreams. And let me just tell you something. Fields to DJ Moore. Oh my God. A fantasy godsend last night. It was like I was at the Bellagio hitting a slot machine. Every time I looked, it was like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And it's sprinkling a little Cole Kmet there. But my point is, of course, everyone that follows this show knows Riley is a Packers fan. So we'll go back and forth on that. But today's show is the kickoff here. Last year we did every Friday we did a Big Ten preview. And then again, life gets busy. We're in transition back here at ECSI. So we're going to do our first Big Ten preview this Friday with the Breakfast Bankroll. So we're going to get you ready for tonight's slate as well. Shout out to Connor McLaren, always good fan, always here to trust and support the ECSI family. Shout out to the guys behind the glass, Joe Shea, Evan Lewis, Olu, Bennett, and Cade Horton. Shout out to our new sponsor and partnership with WagerWire. Big things planned for the rest of 2023 and beyond. If you have not downloaded that app, please do us a favor. Go over to your Apple store or gaming store. Download the app. We're going to be having tutorials, shows on exactly why you should be looking at this app every day, syncing your bets up, following and tracking your bets, turning bets and wagers actually into assets. And that's what ECSI has been all about since day one, January 1st, 2015. Never once have I or will I say the word gambling. We've always treated this as an investment. You know, if you can go run to E.F. Hutton and drop 5 dimes on a portfolio or drop 5 dimes on, this Bitcoin, that crypto coin, that blah, 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 or be a day trader. Well, if you have the right service, if you have the right mentality, you have the right bankroll, et cetera, you can make money here in sports wagering. And that's what we've been here for 8 full years of public service, soon to be 9, and much more. So enough of the blah, 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 blah. Let's bring in my co-host, the one, the only, Mr. Riley Magnuson. Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon. Good morning, my friend. You just said it to me. I am used to the closing bell getting the good afternoon, but no, it is a fantastic morning here in the Midwest over here. I am feeling good, as you mentioned. We've got plenty of good Big Ten action this weekend, starting tonight, actually. Decent game. Obviously not changing the landscape of college football tonight, but it could be a fun one nonetheless. So at the end of the day, feeling pretty good about that. As you mentioned, Bears look a lot better last night on the eve that Dick Butkus passes away. So very fitting that they show up and show out for that man there who was a former Big Ten football athlete himself. So very fitting that we're here for that as well. So RIP to that legend for sure. But no, you said it, man. I mean, the Bears looked so much better last night. I mean, offensively kind of break out a little bit in the first 2-3 quarters of that game against Denver, and then obviously the wheels fall off. But a defense in Washington that looked good week one, and a lot of people are saying, hey, man, if Sam Howell can tread water, this Washington team and that defense can win them some football games, and that narrative might not be totally dead. But talking about a team that, if I'm not wrong, has given up over 30 points in 4 of these 5 games that they've played here. So obviously defensively, when you're talking about a young quarterback trying to keep afloat, wasn't very good last night, obviously, but nonetheless, a team that a week ago was looking like a not a terrible loss against the defending NFC champs, and obviously losing overtime to getting the doors beat off of them on Thursday night by an 0-4 team. So a lot of looking in the mirror to do for them, for sure. Not I'm drawing a blank on who they've got next week in the future coming up for them, but obviously a tough back against the wall spot now. And when you look at their schedule, if you're talking about a team that wants to make the playoffs, losing to the Bears at home was obviously one that they probably, or the optimistic fan was probably counting as a W. So big need for them. And obviously I believe the Bears host the Vikings next week, if I'm not mistaken. So big divisional game there, regardless of what happens with the Vikings this weekend. If you're the Bears, obviously trying to string 2 together and get this season back into get back within reach, and obviously the Vikings still trying to do the same. So that's going to be a big one no matter what happens with the Vikings this Sunday. So excited for that. And then obviously we've got plenty of other football coming up this Sunday as well, my friend.
Yeah, and I think the narrative wasn't talked about enough in the regards to the emotional loss that the Commanders had the week before in Philly. An opportunity, they tie it late, an opportunity not only they had an opportunity to go for the win, meaning the 2-point conversion, and Riverboat Ron, as he's been known for all his career, decides the offense is too tired. Let's take this thing to overtime. So in a short week, the mentality, hey, we just went to overtime with Philly. Now we're back home. It's the Bears. So, don't worry about it. We'll find a way to muscle this through. And as we talked backstage, that missed field goal that would have cut it to 30-23 with 5 minutes to go obviously was the game right there. And we were talking, 2 hours before kickoff, the passing of Dick Butkus, rest in peace. Kind of like now all of a sudden the stars were aligning that you were going to get that out-of-body experience from the Bears.
Right, and yeah, I mean they showed up, because I mean I personally even last year when the Bears had their best offensive stretch and they were winning games, aside from that primetime New England game, they were putting up all those points and they were still losing. So I at the very least thought their offense was going to show up, like maybe not for 40 points, but show up in a similar fashion. But credit to their defense for showing up as much as they did, because it's not a very good defense on paper. It's a defense that for an entire calendar year plus has been probably the worst defense in football. So to show up like they did last night, obviously wasn't a 14 or less performance, but 20 points will get it done if your offense is as good as they expect themselves to be. So that'll get the job done, and obviously not only end their losing streak, but end their streak of whatever it was of 24, 25 points or more scored or allowed, I should say. So credit to them, and I think the MO is just get the dang ball to DJ Moore if you're them, and and the crazy part is we didn't see Fields run too much last night, so I kind of expect them to still try and open that up a little more going forward. Finding some of those, not having the 5-week stretch where Fields is running for 100 yards or whatever every single week, but and I think he was close to 60 last night, so I'm not trying to downplay what he did last night, but I think there's probably room for a big player or two in the run game for Fields as well coming up that we haven't quite seen yet, and some touchdowns as well for him. They kind of broke out their own version of the Philly tush push or whatever. They don't have the horses on the line like the Eagles do and whatnot, but I mean, if there's maybe the 2 guys that you would handpick, two of the three guys that you would handpick to be the quarterback in that situation, Fields is one of them. So I think offensively, at the very least, you're going to see a Bears team that is going to put some better performances than what we see the past few weeks. Defensively, could revert again back to allowing 30-plus points. But at the end of the day, it's a team that I don't think is going to be as much of a dumpster fire as we saw the first 4 weeks there.
And the schedule does set up nice for them. I was talking to a colleague on the way home last night. He was running through the schedule. The fact is, you get a couple extra days rest, and don't forget Minnesota, tough game this week against Kansas City, and so that will be I think 4.5 point dogs right now. If, and obviously a big if, Minnesota was able to find a way to slow down and stop Mahomes and actually win that game. Another perfect spot for the Bears where, again, Commanders' tough game against Philly. Now here comes the emotional, the high of the Vikings now traveling to Chicago. And we know Minnesota's defense is not that good. That could be a first 1-34 wins that game kind of shoot.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, my internet, I think on my end was cutting out a little bit. But nonetheless, I'm with you 100%. Vikings-Chiefs actually down to 3.5. So that one's interesting there in Minnesota. Obviously going to be a lot of eyes on it, whether or not the old Swifties are there or not, which I don't know about you. But, yeah, I'm not an old man yelling at clouds, but I'm getting I just want football, for God's sake. I don't need all this extra crap. So that sounded like an old man yelling at cloud. But nonetheless, that's a good, probably a good point to stop for NFL. What do we got? I know we've got sad we didn't have any game do or die games in MLB yesterday. Obviously, 4 2-game sweeps out of the wild card round. But obviously, starting tomorrow, noontime, I think they did a great job of laying it out, so we might get a little bit of overlap, but for the most part, 4 standalone games, aside from maybe the overlap of Twins, Houston, and Philly, Atlanta. But nonetheless, you've got the one that was interesting to me, you've got Texas and Baltimore close to a pick'em. Was that surprising to you with as much of a probably bandwagon fan base we might get for this Baltimore team here?
You know, a big fan of the O's. I think we got some futures from way back, a year ahead of schedule. The crushing blow, obviously, losing their closer, the best closer in the game. I think Camden Yards will be electric. The Rangers kind of flexed their muscles in their 2-game sweep against a Rays team, obviously, that peaked real early in the season. And the fact is that their heart and soul of their starting pitching, the McClanahans of the world and a few others, not there. And we do know they're offensively challenged. So, Riley, to be 100% honest with you, reading the market, I saw late 2 nights ago, Derek Stevens and Jeffrey Benson at the Circa put out Baltimore -115, best of 5 series now. I was born at night, not last night. If they're not telling me that they like the Rangers, then I'm wrong.
Right, and anyone that doesn't have a horse in this thing, like, for example, myself, and anyone in a similar sense that maybe isn't a rival fan of the Orioles, which obviously is pretty specific to only a few fan bases, is kind of the team that you're rooting for at this point, as far as the MLB playoffs is concerned. Not only that, but a 100-win team, if I'm not wrong. So, that was the one that was eye-opening to me for sure. That was the first one up tomorrow. Because I mean their pitching staff is fine. It's solid. It's a solid rotation for 162-game season, but down to the playoffs, I mean, could they show up and be great for 2-3 weeks? For sure, but it's not really striking too much fear into too many teams there, which not everybody is, obviously, but that's one thing that could derail them for sure there. The next one tomorrow, Minnesota and Houston. Any added momentum for Minnesota after breaking 21-year playoff drought, or you think it's back to square one? We're all even now with Houston here.
That's what the narrative in regards to the starting pitching. I know Houston has Verlander back. I think they're throwing out Framber in the first game. Another number that kind of opened my eyes, I think the true open in the series number was Houston -155, Minnesota +135. I think most of the public is just, it's Houston. They have the experience. they're going to muscle their way and find a way to win. I've kind of comically, tongue-in-cheek, says, well, maybe this is the Carlos Correa revenge series here. Not, that he might be or will be the big factor there. Royce Lewis has been off the charts, but the monkey's off the Twins' back. They have the better starting pitching. I think the Twinkies are as live as they get. They're not getting enough credit. They play great fundamental baseball. Crowd was electric. So how I see this is, and people are going to call me probably crazy because we have not sent out the release of the alert yet, is I think at worst the Twinkies get a split in Houston. And I'm going to go on record. I don't think it makes it back to Houston. I think this is a Twins that probably I'm leaning win this series in 4, Riley.
I'm not against it either, and it's tough for me to say because you got an 87 AL Central team, and 2 years ago you told me all you had to do was win at least 88 games to win the AL Central, and you're gonna have a chance to make a deep playoff run. I would have been as a White Sox fan very excited to hear that situation that all you need is 88 wins, but obviously here we are with the Twins, and so. Kind of want them to make a deep playoff run to prove to the White Sox ownership how attainable it is as far as that is making a nice playoff run is concerned. So, but no, you're right. The atmosphere in Minnesota, I think people underestimate because they've obviously not been able to make it out of the first round, and so when and they've had a lot of situations where they're getting the doors beat off of them immediately. So the place is electric right now. And as far as a team who's been in it a lot, I mean, would it surprise you if the I don't know, honestly, fatigue like it's a basketball team or anything like that who's playing deep into the playoffs 6 years in a row? But I mean, they've been there a lot. It's a time for some time for them to come back to earth a little bit, I guess is what I'm saying. The other thing I'm seeing though, looks like at least what's listed right now is Verlander game 1 tomorrow, and then Framber Valdez on game 2. For Houston, and I don't see who's listed for Minnesota yet. So that is that. But I'm with you. I could absolutely see if the Twins can get that split, then they're obviously in a fantastic spot there. So Phillies Braves is the other. They're all of them tomorrow, but Phillies Braves is the next one up tomorrow. Thought the Marlins might give a little more of a run for give the Phillies more of a run for their money than they did. Did not really at all. Any love for the Phillies in this series to, the fact that they've gotten themselves, don't have any potential rust. Maybe the Braves are, getting a little potential rust. I don't know. I heard that they're playing some simulated games to try and keep themselves loose. The Braves have been. So any love that the Phillies can be live in this series for themselves here, or is this just the start of a nice Braves deep playoff run here?
When the Braves open up the playoffs, 2-1 favorites, and the next closest one is 4-1. The series, the historic year of Acuna, what he did. Again, there's no Maddox, Smoltz, or Glavine here. It's Spencer Strider in a cloud of dust. In come the Philly train, who had an amazing run last year in the playoffs, making it to the World Series. Place was electric. I, too, thought the Marlins would be put up a little more of a fight than in comes Stott with a grand slam. This whole run this year was started in mid-August when Trey Turner couldn't hit his weight, and he steps up to the plate in the bottom of the first, and the crowd just simultaneously got on their feet and gave him a standing ovation just out of the blue, trying to say, hey, we're behind you. Come on, kid. And it just catapulted not just him, but the team. You look, they got Wheeler, they got Nola, they got the Bridges, they got a back end. And that number, from a market standpoint, was a Phillies number. All the world, the Braves with Strider must win game 1. If they lose game 1 with Strider, there's a real good possibility they're not making it back to Atlanta, because at worst is a split in Atlanta. Then they got to go to the Philadelphia and try to at least get one there. So I'm leaning Braves. Am I nervous? Yeah, damn, I am nervous because, like everyone else, it's real simple. The winner of this series is winning the NL and probably most likely winning the World Series.
That's not that's not a crazy statement. I mean, it's obviously when you say that from the AL or the divisional series point, then people perk their eyes up. But I'm with you for the most part. I think one guy, if the Braves are winning the series and making that run that you're suggesting, who has been shelved a little bit, but it's I was reading he's in place on track to start Game 2. Max Fried has got to be a guy that steps up and gives them some seriously good innings. If he's getting blown up or can't make it past 3 innings, then that might be the kiss of death, and obviously you're turning to Elder or whoever else after that to be really, really good. And so, if Max Fried can step up and be great for 5-6 innings, then whether it's Game 2 or beyond this series, then I think the Braves are that team for sure. But if not, then it seems crazy to say it's as simple as one guy's success. But I mean, it could come down to whether he's good or not. Could be the factor there, and but obviously, piggybacking off what you said, if he loses and even if Fried is good in Game 2 and the Braves win, then obviously they're in a deep hole. So if they can win that first one, then Fried's great and get him a 2-0 lead, then they're in the driver's seat. So I'm with you. I'm still leaning Braves, and I'm leaning Braves to be that team. But they're as great as that offense has been, it's. You can get somebody else coming in and having a dominant pitching performance more than you can convince yourself of the Braves doing it. So I'm with you there. I go into the next one. I know you were saying earlier in the week that you were wondering if the Diamondbacks could be this year's Phillies team. They take it to Evan Longoria holding down the defensive side of the field in Game 1 at least against the Brewers, for God's sakes. I need a show of hands. How many people thought he was that are watching? How many people thought he retired 3 years ago? For goodness sakes! I mean, the one diving, maybe not the diving step, line drive, then double play he had was the not only the Game 1 win, but essentially the series at that point. So, credit to them. But now they're obviously going into L.A. against the Dodgers. Kershaw, I believe, Game 1. Any love for the Diamondbacks at this point? Now that we're staring at the Dodgers down in the face, I know obviously a lot of people got respect for the Dodgers. Have been here plenty of times, but kind of similar to the Astros, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this is the point where they start to slow down a little bit as far as their playoff success.
Yeah, the opening number was a statement in regards to looking at it compared to some of the other series. I saw a Dodgers minus 235, 245. You could have got the D-backs at around plus 220. I've seen Dodger money come rolling in. Kershaw Game 1. The pitching, the front end pitching sets up well for the Diamondbacks. For the fact is, they haven't had to use Merrill Kelly yet. So again, they got a fresh Merrill Kelly. They're going to be able to bring Zach Gallen back. Obviously, Game 3 with Fat or whoever they go is going to be a tough one, but it'll be back in Arizona. The place will be electric. Listen, the D-backs are playing with house money. They were pretty good underdogs against the Brewers, the ECSI VIPs. Congrats. Had the Brewers and had the Twins in the 2 series plays. Nice price on the on the D-backs. I think we had them around plus 152 or 53 there. Can you get a split in LA? Well, it's different in regards to you got to try to find a way to beat Kershaw. So if you go down 0-1, then all the pressure in the world is, with you there. The Dodgers have been sitting back. What a year from Mookie. What a year from Freeman. It's just next man up. And as much as we're anxiously awaiting a potential Atlanta and Dodgers series here, there's a lot of work to be done. So from a price point, I like the D-backs, but what I'm going to say is, the Dodgers. But what I'm going to say is this is, if you think the Dodgers are going to win Game 1 and you still lean the D-backs in the series, hold off in betting your series play with the D-backs, because if you get them tonight at plus 235 and Kershaw is Kershaw, you're going to get him plus 335, plus 400 after 0-1 start. So hold off. and wait, and then some pizza and beer money on the Diamondbacks. Hopefully, Merrill Kelly can find a way to steal game 2 and bring it back. I mean, Corbin Carroll, their offense, they're a fun team to watch, and could be a team to reckon with, Riley, in the future.
Oh, 100%. No, I am 100% with you. And the interesting part is that these two NL series get a day off on Sunday, as we get the AL series going Saturday, Sunday for games 1 and 2. The NL series gets the day off on Sunday and then resumes on Monday. Interesting day off there, so that could help some of these teams that want some of their pitchers coming back. But Merrill Kelly not getting any action yet is a lot bigger than people are giving him credit for. I don't know. I didn't see if it was listed yet. I think it was still undecided, but not sure if he's going game 1 or game 2. Maybe with the extra day off, maybe Zach Allen is able to slot into that game 2 easy for him. So I don't know. But that's unless you've got anything else for baseball there, we can move on because we've got some Big Ten football to talk about, my friend. Actually, before I do, the one thing we talked about NFL and the Bears, Chase Claypool on his way to Miami to play with the Miami Dolphins. Bears and Dolphins agree on a trade for Chase Claypool. I think he is, of all situations, as long as he's not an a-hole in the locker room, maybe that's the one where he could fit in and be all right. But I think that is by far one of the most overrated names in the entire sports landscape right now, who I think a lot of people at this point agree with after his Bears tenure, but even when he was with Pittsburgh, I think he's, for a lack of a better term, just a turd in the punch bowl. So I think the Bears are obviously glad that they got him out of town. But there's like a 6th and a 7th swap, so the Bears get the Dolphins' 6th-round pick, but the Dolphins get their 7th-round pick back in 2025. So it might only be like a 10 spot move up. But they get Chase Claypool off in their hands, who they traded a 2nd-round pick for. So. Nonetheless, on his way to Miami, not sure what we're going to see out of that, whether he's going to be a factor at all or not. But interesting moves there out of the NFL.
Yeah, the rich get richer. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of bad things about Chase, his work ethic, his locker room manner and demeanor. Demeanor, excuse me. Now you go into a locker room with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, which I don't see the move. I don't understand the move. But again, maybe if you can, give him a bottle of ammonia and just, bring himself back to the Notre Dame days and say, hey, we got a long season ahead of us. We're going to be in the playoffs. We're going to make a deep run. If you really want to be a part of this, it's preseason, it's practice, it's, get your head on straight. And then, hopefully, weeks 8, 9, 10 in the back end when we might need you on a 3rd and 2 or something, or you could be one of these, see what you got. Hey, thanks for the memories, and it'll be on the scrap heap again in 3 weeks.
That's kind of what I'm leaning to. I say what you want about the Bears. Obviously, their recent history has not been good, but when you alienate 2 of the NFL's most long-standing, proud organizations that are kind of no-nonsense organizations, and they ship you out pretty quickly, it's typically a pretty bad back mark on your record there. So I'll lean towards he'll be on the market again in a few weeks, is where I'm leaning to. But he just refuses to block. He refuses to do all the other things. He wants to be wide open and catching passes. So I think he'll. I don't think he'll have success. I don't know what's next for him, but nonetheless, on to college football, my friend. We've got 5 Big Ten football games this weekend. 1 tonight, Nebraska, Illinois tonight, Maryland, Ohio State tomorrow, Rutgers, Wisconsin. I guess there's 6. One's Howard, Northwestern, but I don't have too many strong thoughts about that one, so we can move past that one. Purdue and Iowa, who you and I talked about a little bit off stage a couple days ago, and then Michigan, Minnesota, the nightcap. In Minnesota there. So to kick things off, Nebraska, Illinois, we obviously haven't talked too much about this Nebraska team, Illinois team. This is obviously an odd, obviously we're not I'm not as big of an Illinois fan as anything, on my other teams where I'm more of a Big Ten fan. But I am a de facto Illinois fan. You obviously have had great insights and had some past love for Nebraska. Obviously, I know you still do have some there, but obviously not the same. But so we've got ourselves a nice ECSI matchup to some degree here tonight, my friend. But both these teams, 2 and 3. Have not exactly looked good at all on either side of the coin for these two teams. Illinois barely skates by. I think it was Toledo to open their season, and really kind of played with their food. I want to say it was FAU, and Nebraska obviously a couple non-conference wins for themselves against a group of 5 teams, Northern Illinois, my neck of the woods, and then I think it was Louisiana Tech. So looked fine in those 2 games, but obviously had the paint drying game to open up the season where their defense looked solid against Minnesota. Since then, their defense hasn't quite looked as good. And then, obviously, I guess first half against Colorado looked pretty solid. Nebraska did, and then the wheels fell off in that one. And then, obviously, I think it was last week against Michigan, get the pants beat off of them. So, this one is the line on this one was interesting to see. Illinois as 3.5-point favorites because from what I've seen, there's a little more endearing qualities from Nebraska at times than I've seen from Illinois. So I was surprised to see this one over a field goal. I personally thought it was going to be 2.5 with Illinois getting the nod at home. So I was surprised to see it go up over a field goal. I don't know about your thoughts on that one. But if Nebraska's defense shows up at all, I think it's going to be a tough one for Illinois here. If they don't, then obviously I think this is just going to be kind of a sloppy offensive success game here in this one, and the defense is just stink. But we've got a total of 42.5, so I kind of don't know where I'm leaning on this one. It seems a little fool's gold for a full 3.5 points here with the Nebraska team up against an Illinois team that I'm sure, as much as people laugh at Nebraska, Illinois has not looked much better at all this season. So on paper, without any of those factors, I kind of lean towards Nebraska, but it's not one where I'm rushing to the window by any means with this game here tonight. Any thoughts, any strong thoughts from you, any leans at all in this one?
It's kind of comical because I think you're spot on with your analysis. My true numbers was Illinois -4 with a 44.5. And so Vegas right away, and our spreadsheet's telling us 24-20 is the final here. I, too, thought this number would be 2.5. So I was kind of shocked when I saw this. I'm looking right now at Circa. It is down to 3 with a 42. It's a 3 minus 15 cents. So next move back to 3.5. So Circa right now on the Vegas Strip had some overnight money come in on Nebraska last night. Everyone else is 3.5. The positive, whoever wins this game will be 3-3, and then we start talking bowl picture again. Matt Rule comes in, a couple rough early games to start the year. Illinois has kind of lost its luster from a couple years past. Nebraska quarterback play has just been so bad. You know what? I hate to say it this way. I think they're begging you to take Nebraska. I mean, why wouldn't you take Nebraska over a field goal, which is really sending the alarm bells? People think this is going to be a paint dry game. I know they're excited because there's some college football on. There's one other game, K-State at Okie State as well. And, my heart says Nebraska, grab the points, sprinkle some pizza and beer money on it. Riley, this thing smells to holy heaven. It really, really does.
I know you and we're lockstep on this one 100%. If this was buried on a 60-game Saturday slate and it wasn't, that many eyes on it, I would say forget the stench. I don't care. I'm taking Nebraska. But the fact that there's no baseball on tonight, these two football games are the main show in town tonight, so that doesn't help me either. So I'm not taking it. I'm not taking Illinois. Obviously, whether or not I have the means to is a different story because we still can't bet on Illinois teams within the state of Illinois. But nonetheless, which I don't know. I've still tried to have my own thoughts about that as far as fan bases and how they drive the market. I mean, the Illinois fan base can't really bet on this one either. Unless they're outside of the state of Illinois or have offshore books, so you kind of lose that fan base on top of it, whether or not you think that matters or not, as far as evening out the market and all that factor isn't really there either. So it's a stench for sure. And from an Illinois success standpoint, I don't really see it because they've just been, like you said, I mean, I like Brett Bielema. I think, of all the people that could turn this Illinois ship into some type of successful unit, I think that's fantastic. For the future, still have a lot of optimism there. But when you lose a first, second, and third round pick out of your secondary, that's a tough hill to climb when your name is in Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, whoever. So the defense, even though their front seven was supposed to be pretty good, has not shown up. So maybe if that's what we're talking about, maybe this Illinois front seven is what steps up, because on paper they still were supposed to look a lot like they did last year, which supported that secondary. Now you obviously take away the secondary success, but maybe the front seven gets after it tonight for Illinois, and that's what we're talking about as why they won this game. But aside from that, I mean, Nebraska's defense has had a couple points of looking solid. So if game total was less than 40, I probably would have been all over the under and saying this was going to be a paint drying game. But I don't know. The total is kind of in a spot too where I am just kind of throwing my hands up on the total as well.
Yeah, and I was actually looking at this. One of our spreadsheets here, Nebraska team total 19.5 over minus 20 cents, and Illinois team total 23.5 juiced under minus 125. Again, usually when you see a 19 over, they're begging you, because most people will say, well, they're going to get to 20, 21, maybe even 23. They'll usually get stuck on 17 there. And then the Illinois is not juiced over 23.5. It's juiced under. So if you didn't like the spread, you didn't like the under over, but you liked Illinois, you can get plus 105 with their team total over 23.5. So I'll just go out on record. We got a lot of people watching the show. Thank you guys so much here. I'll just tell you what I'm reading right now between the tea leaves. Your final score here is Illinois 23, Nebraska 17. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'm sold on it. I am sold on it as much as on paper when my brain doesn't want me to be sold on it, as everything you're saying. I'm with you, and I am sold as well. So that'll be an interesting one tonight. That is Fox Sports 1 about the same time. If you got two TV setup or a split screen setup, you can watch both of those games tonight. Moving on to tomorrow's games, we've got, I believe, 2 at the noon slate, 11 my time slate. As far as two teams that are undefeated, this is obviously not the trio of teams in the Big Ten, but a Maryland team that wants to prove themselves. You've got Maryland going into Ohio State, Maryland 5-0, Ohio State 4-0. I'm seeing this line's been teetering a little bit up between 19, 20, 20.5 or so. I think this week I see at one spot I see 20. Most of these other spots I see 19.5 in favor of Ohio State here. 57.5 on the total. I told you yesterday. We've had so many points with Maryland over the last 10 years of being in the Big Ten, where it's this point where they have a great non-conference start. It's the rah-rah, here we go. Here's Maryland, a Big Ten football team, and then they get the doors beat off of them. Last year, though, this is the exact same scenario. They gave Michigan a serious run for their money. 34-27 game, I think, and a couple bad breaks, and that's how they lose that game. So I'm not sitting here saying I think Maryland is pulling off a massive upset. I do have my reservations about Ohio State's offense. Obviously, the receiving core is unbelievable. But in the couple of games where they've played legitimate competition, they haven't looked their offense hasn't looked fantastic. So I'm kind of at a spot where I think Maryland is going to make this one a better than a 3-score game. So I am leaning towards Maryland and the points on this one. I know a lot of people are still believing in Ohio State. I was a person that thought Notre Dame was going to beat Ohio State. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition, but I'm not exact. I think Ohio State is a top 10 football team 100% of the way. I'm not debating that, but I don't think they're as good as they've been in the past few years. Defensively, maybe that's what does it for them and would lead them to a cover, because obviously their defense has looked good. But I'm not saying I'm sold on Maryland showing up and making the statement here, but I do think this one could be a competitive game, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
My true numbers on this game, 17.5 with a 54. The number right now, we'll use the circa here, is 20 with a 57. So they're telling us initially on today's numbers, 37-20. Ohio State. And historically, this is one of those games that Ohio State puts up a 40, 45. I'd like you, if you're looking strictly X's and O's, this is not that just autoplay Ohio State team total like last year. It was just a cash cow like Washington is this year and a few others. Now, with that said, if I am going to get into this game, I am leaning towards the Ohio State team total. And the reason why, if you go back on their schedule, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Riley, where they just been going through the motions. And then I think they put up a 40 or 50 burger. I think Maryland undefeated. I think this is going to pique their interest. I think this is an early and often Ohio State scoring machine this week. Now, the one downside is if Maryland starts playing keep away and they say, hey, our best chance is to slow, methodical drive down this field. And, they're getting 5, 6, 7 minute drives. So the Ohio State offense isn't on the field. For me in this game, my only play would be to look at the Ohio State team total over. And if my math's correct, do you have it in front of you? Is it a 37? Do you know?
I see 38.5 plus 100 over.
Okay. So that says they got to get to 40, 41. I think they do. I don't have to worry about a backdoor cover. I don't have to worry. Well, I'll just take the over and hope Maryland scores 17 points. When you didn't give me the 36 and a half, which means they're baiting you to take the over. You gave me the 38 and a half. You gave me even money. I'll take a shot that the Buckeyes get to 40, 41.
I like it. I like where your head's at. I'm as much as I would love, if it was like a 15, 16-point spread or something like that, I think that would be a stench, and that would make me feel a lot more aggressive probably with Maryland or something along those lines. So I do, from those standpoints, I agree with you. I guess I'm standing on my limb of not really believing in this Ohio State team, I guess is where I'm coming from. And so if I'm standing on that leg, then I'm thinking Maryland can keep it within 3 scores. But as far as the reasoning behind the Ohio State team total, though, I cannot dispute that at all. Their offense absolutely could show up here. And Maryland hasn't really been tested, obviously. They've looked good against who they've played, but haven't obviously been tested. So interested to see how this one goes. It worries me that Maryland's going to have that classic, here we go, this is the time to show up, and then it's a 50-17 performance. So I am worried about that, but I don't believe in this Ohio State team enough. So I could see a 41-24 type game or something like that. So we'll move on from that one, but that one obviously is still a fairly big game there. Rutgers and Wisconsin, both teams one loss here, each side of the Big Ten, East and West there. Wisconsin minus 13 at home, as I'm seeing it right now. I know that one came down a little bit. I do see some 13.5s. I even see a 12.5, obviously. So this one's a little all over the place. Game total of 44. This Wisconsin team obviously looked a lot better against Purdue start to finish. To start the season, you look on paper, they're obviously 3-1. A couple of those games were closer games in the first half, and then they wake up and they flex their muscles a little bit and pull away. So if they're going to be a team that is putting together for 4 quarters, they are a team that should start winning these games. Rutgers 4-1 has looked pretty good, other than that Michigan game. Obviously, just pretty outmatched. Obviously, haven't really played anybody. But a 13-point spread, and what's the team totals here? 20, a little different, 27.5 or 28.5. 27.5, I see minus 125 or so, and then minus 110 on the over 28.5 for Wisconsin and over 14.5 for Rutgers there. I guess where my eyes went to for this one, this is a game that in the past, I mean, ever since Rutgers came into the conference, this one would have been a 36-37 type game, total game, and now we're staring at 44 here. So I think there could be some more points than people are, probably giving these two teams credit for. Rutgers has been, Rutgers is better than, what their public persona and perception is this year, and I think they're only 2 games away from being a bowl team here this season. So I'm not saying Rutgers is pulling off the win, because I do think Wisconsin, my take on Wisconsin was kind of slow start, and they'll get progressively better as the season goes on. As far as who Wisconsin's got, they're home for Iowa next week, which is one of their bigger games. Aside from, I know they've got Ohio State on their schedule, but that Iowa game, as far as winning the Big Ten West, is maybe their biggest game on their schedule. So if they're looking ahead to that, then this Rutgers team could be a little live, or at least is going to cover that 13 there. But if Wisconsin's showing up and is taking care of business, at the very least, I think we could see some points both ways here. And I guess I'm leaning on a game over, or at the very least, maybe I like Rutgers to at least get over that 14.5.
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I talked to you at length about the totals on the Wisconsin games, and they've been so high, and we were a part of, obviously, the Wisconsin team total over against Purdue, where they really started getting clicking. And I look at this game here, and my number was 13.5 with a 45.5, which initially led to me saying, oh, now they're giving Wisconsin's defense a little respect. This isn't the Michigan defense that we're talking about. We were blessed a few weeks ago. We had the Rutgers team total under 9.5 when Rutgers traveled to Michigan. They scored in the first minute and a half. They were up 7-0, and I'm like ready to rip the ticket up, and they didn't score the rest of the game. So I'm looking at this number here, and you hit it right on the head, and this is what I mean. Anyone watching and listening, this is what the market wants you to think. Riley said that the Wisconsin team totals was 27.5 or 28, okay? Especially if you got a 27.5 number, they want you to bet that over. They're going to say in your mind, oh, they're going to score at least 28, if not 28, maybe 30 or 31. Circle back to Rutgers team total. It's 14 and a hook, okay? So what's the mind say? Well, 14 and a hook, obviously I'm betting the under, because if they get to 14, that's fine. They get to 13, they get to 10, they get to 7. I'm a winner. So the market is setting your eyes up for you to take the Wisconsin team total over and the Rutgers team total under. If I was to play this game and I had to play one piece in this, I would take the Rutgers team total over 14.5. You're going to get the plus money. And again, they're baiting you there. If it was 13.5, you stay away, because 14, you're a winner. Correct? But they're giving you the 14.5. It's almost like that. It's almost like that extra cherry with a few extra nuts on the whipped cream and on that hot fudge sundae. They're like, come on. We'll give you a little more.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you. And I think you could see a 27-17 game or a 31-17 game. So I think as far as the spread, I think that's pretty close to a toss-up, honestly. But no, I think we're on the same page here. And I think part of it is having, as much as I like Wisconsin, and I think they'll have a very good chance of being that team out of the Big Ten West that wins. I think Rutgers deserves a little more respect here, and they are getting it a little bit. But, we're 100% on the same page with that one there. So don't see a spread here for this Howard Northwestern game. I don't know what the heck it is, but we'll move on as we keep saying. Purdue and Iowa is the next one up, who you and I talked a tiny bit about. Iowa 4-1, a Purdue team that up until that game against Illinois did not look very good. And we just talked about an Illinois team that I also don't think is very good at all. So sitting at a 2.5-point spread, I see even on one spot here, Iowa -1.5 at -120. That is just one spot that I see there. So 2.5 for the most part there. It's an afternoon game in Iowa, and I know their QB just goes down. But even with their QB going down, and I'm sure everyone is waiting for Iowa to look like last year's Iowa offense. This is still a really, really damn good defense, and so the fact that they're sitting at the short favorite at home against a Purdue team that, like I said, they obviously had an offensive explosion in the second half against Illinois last week. Hasn't been very good at all, and failed to beat Fresno State. Didn't look very good against Syracuse. Got kind of waxed against Wisconsin essentially there. And really their only wins are a couple of bad ACC and Big Ten teams here. It's very eye-opening to see here. and you've got a total under that's 39 and a half. So I think we're talking about a lot of people could be right. You got an Iowa team total 20 and a half. I don't know. I'm not saying I think you could see this Iowa team look disgusting on offense, but their defense has got to show up and be the reason they win this game and keep this one from being the stickiest game of the college football slate here. Because it's got a stench, Jeff. I mean, obviously, as we talked about NFL home field advantages the other day, this Iowa home field advantage is a legit home field advantage. So the fact that it's a 2.5 point spread for a team that you would, even without their quarterback, you could put me at quarterback, and I think on paper you'd still trust Iowa's defense to have a good day against Purdue. But I don't know. What are your thoughts here? Is this a fire away on Purdue, or is this just stinky altogether? Maybe take a seat and watch how it goes without Iowa's QB here.
I hate jumping in games, obviously, because of injuries. And this one, obviously, we talked all week about this. I'm like, holy crap, what's going on here? The true number I had was 3 with a 38.5. Again, 2017, 21-17 was where they were going. I'm looking at the Vegas Strip right now, Circa, South Point, and the Circa and South Point, 2 with a 38.5. Over at Westgate, our good friends John Murray have bumped it up to 2.5. I guess this will be the telltale sign. Obviously, if I was to play this game, I'd be playing Purdue. I'd be playing them on the money line. But you're going to give me the telltale sign here. Did they give you Purdue team total 16.5, 17, or 17.5?
I see 18.5.
There it is right there. Purdue's the side. Purdue's the side.
Oh,
now
that
now the sign would have been 16.5. They're giving you 18.5, which is kind of no man's land because obviously you can get stuck on stupid at 17. 18.5. How many times do we see a 19? Not many. So again, do they get to 20? 20 is the magical number. If you could see a 7-3 halftime. I'm not telling you to run to the window to get the Purdue team total here. If I was to play this game, and we're a team total team over here, if I had to play it, I'm playing Purdue. See if it goes to 2.5. If it does, you can buy the full hook, minus 130 to 3.5. You can sprinkle a little pizza and beer money on the money line. If we're wrong, we're wrong, but hands down, Purdue's the side here.
Yeah, and the real that has really from my hesitation of not jumping in too much more is that I've had an action against Purdue in a couple spots that went successfully, and their offense up until last week just hadn't looked very good. It was an offense that has moved the ball okay, and then just kind of either shoots themselves in the foot or can't really capitalize there. So if they're able to move the ball, then this is going to be a win here, especially for an Iowa team that we're expecting probably not to move the ball too well without McNamara there. So, yeah, there's not a chance in hell that I'm taking Iowa in this one with the way this one looks. But, I don't like this Purdue team enough to jump in, but Purdue is the side for sure here. At Iowa, for God's sake, and it's almost a pick 'em there, so under a field goal there. So, that is a one to watch for sure. That is in the afternoon. And then we move to the final game of the slate, only 6 games if you count Northwestern there. 6:30 my time, 7:30 yours. Michigan at Minnesota. I see 18.5 for the most part across what I'm seeing here. Maybe an 18 in one spot. 45.5 or 46 on the game total here. And Michigan has obviously just been blowing teams out left and right here. So, I'm not sitting here saying Minnesota is live and that they're going to give Michigan a serious run for their money. I would have respected Michigan with what they put together here. And, Minnesota, who's been pretty inconsistent and obviously a loss to Northwestern is going to be, the black mark on their entire season here, regardless of what happens tomorrow night. But I would have respected anything over, 21.5 more so if I was expecting another Michigan total beatdown here. So I guess what I'm saying is I think Minnesota is going to play with a lot of pride here. Their 2 losses that they've suffered, have been on the road. I'm not saying they haven't beat anybody good at home, but it's a home environment that is going to be a good environment. So I guess I'm suggesting that Minnesota could have a very spirited effort. Maybe that's a 24-10 or something, 30-17 loss or something like that. But I'm kind of leaning toward Minnesota at least giving a spirited effort here and not getting embarrassed in this case. Maybe they lose like 21 points and Michigan covers still here, but I'm not writing Minnesota off to keep this one halfway interesting here tomorrow night.
Well, go back to opening night, and Minnesota faced Nebraska, and in the fourth quarter, Nebraska was leading 10-7, or 10-7. No, yeah, Nebraska had a
Something like
touchdown lead maybe, and Minnesota scored the last 10 points to win the game. Michigan goes into Nebraska 17.5-point favorites and blow them out. A lot of our colleagues, Riley, has Michigan right now as the number one team in the country. Their defense is amazing. They're better offensively. I'll let the tape tell the numbers here for me. My true number was 19.5 with a 47. Circa right now has 18.5 with a 46. So 30-10 is 40. 30-13, 43, 30-17. So I guess this will be the telltale. What is the Minnesota team total?
It is 13.5.
Which means what?
That means they're probably not getting a 14 there.
Thank you. Listen, I tell you what, you are a sharp learner. Exactly. Exactly. Now, all right, so let's go over to the Michigan side. What's the Michigan team total?
It is going to be 31.5.
Okay, so they didn't give us 30. They didn't give us 30.5. They gave us 31.5, which again, tricky number, which means 0 to 31, you're a winner. Do they get to 33? Do they get to 34? Do they get to 35? How do I play this game? I don't. I don't. In regards to, I would. I think Minnesota does get to 13 or less, so I would lean Minnesota team total under. I think the Nebraska team total against Michigan 2 weeks ago was 9.5, so that was a telltale sign. They didn't get to 10, Nebraska. So I think Minnesota might get to 13. Maybe they'll score early, up 7-0, like they did against Rutgers. But this Michigan team, I'm not going to tell everyone go run to the window and mortgage the house on the money line. Michigan's not losing this game. Okay. And then if you needed to scratch an itch, do I have more faith in the offense getting to 32 or the defense holding them under 14? I think it's a real coin flip. Wow. I guess I'd go Michigan team total over 31.5, maybe.
My counter to that would be I think you could set Michigan at just about anything, and I think the majority would still be betting on the over, though. I guess is in Michigan's case here with how they're playing. That would be my counter to them having with a number like 31.5, because 99% of the time I'm with you as far as I think it's going. I guess, but I'm kind of expecting Minnesota's defense not to be a traffic cone. So I'm saying a 27-point performance from Michigan is what I'm saying.
All right. No, and I can see a very professional business-like from Team Khaki here. Let's not make mistakes. Yeah. Minnesota is not going to outscore us, guys. There's no way in holy hell.
No.
If they all of a sudden at halftime it's 14-13, well, that's a whole different ball game here. So no, I agree. I like that thought process.
Yeah. No, and shoot, the next thing you know, we could be staring at you said 14-13, it could be 40-7 at halftime, for goodness sake, and we're crowning Michigan here in October. So I'm with you as far as whether or not they are the best team. I don't know. I think they deserve to be looked at as putting together the best season to this point. I do believe that they've been the best team up until this point with the couple of scares that Georgia has had. So whether or not they're better than Georgia, I think is a good debate right now. But I certainly think they've looked like the best team in college football to this point in Michigan.
That was a hell of a wrap up there on the Big Ten, and not to put the fear in God in you, Mister Riley, Mister Southside Riley, but today is the 6th. In 25 days, we start college basketball. So, not that we're looking for a Big Ten preview on the first Saturday in November on the Big Ten. We'll give you plenty of time to get your Street and Smith and all your information together there. But it wouldn't be fitting if we didn't get at least a few minutes about the Packers at Vegas this week. I've seen they've gone to a 1-point favorite. I don't know if Jimmy G's playing or he's not playing. The Devontae Adams revenge game. A lot of big things to talk about here, but I'm going to use this as your final thoughts and just give us a preview in Cheesehead World, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're expecting.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's I think the first time the Packers have played in Vegas there. So 44.5, 45 on the game total. Offensively, I think there's some optimism because you're getting some guys back. Not Bakhtiari, but a lot of the other guys that have missed time are coming back. So it's a team that's getting healthier from that standpoint. You feel good about it, but it's still a team where you need the defense to be a hell of a lot better than it was against Detroit. And so if the defense is showing up, I do like their, the outlook of their defense looking a lot better on Monday night because Matt LaFleur kind of, publicly put some pressure on Joe Barry. Not saying his job is in danger, but kind of made some comments of in we got to play better situational football where our defense. Essentially being without saying it and being a jerk, saying we're playing terrible situational football. We're not stacking the box when it's an obvious running situation, and we're allowing them to get 5-6 yards with no pressure there. So I think situationally their defense is going to be a lot better here, and have a better game plan going into this game here. And then it's just a matter of if their receivers can get open, if they can get some protection for Jordan Love there. So I've got some optimism for the Packers here in this one. It's a situation where they got Vegas and then Denver. So, if you want to be a playoff team, you feel like you gotta winning 2 games in a row is obviously tough. But it's a spot where you feel like you want to win 2 games in a row here on the road, but obviously got to get one first here. So, got some optimism, but as you mentioned, no certainty from the Raiders as far as their quarterback situation is concerned. So I don't know. I would like to see. We got a team totals. They're both around 22.5. So. I think it could be a higher scoring affair in this one for sure here. But obviously, like you said, still got a few days to marinate. But the Packers being a 1-point dog now, I guess is a little concerning there. But it is in Vegas, so never know what to expect there. But I've got my optimism. I'm not sure what to expect. It's tough. The Packers are a tough nut to crack where they can play up and hang with some of the better teams, and then obviously play down and hang with some of the worst teams in the league. So at this point, with I think offensively the biggest thing that they need to iron out is the protection for Jordan Love, because when he's been under pressure, he's been absolutely abysmal. He's avoided unlike Rodgers, his interceptions are low like Rodgers, but Rodgers would take a lot of sacks. Jordan Love's kind of throwing it away more and throwing it at ankles when he's getting that pressure. So, on paper his completion percentage looks bad, but a few more completions and if he takes a sack instead, his completion percentage is a little better. But obviously a sack is a loss of yards as opposed to an incompletion. So from that standpoint, I'm not trying to totally debunk his lack of completion percentage there, because it's not fantastic, but he has not taken a ton of sacks, so that is one reason for that. But at the end of the day, they need Aaron Jones to be fully healthy, and a fully healthy Aaron Jones and Christian Watson makes them a lot more dangerous and gives them a lot more cohesiveness on offense, and gives them a lot more options to work with. Because otherwise, without those two guys, it's been bare, a bare closet or whatever you want to call it from their offensive standpoint there. So. Got some optimism, but obviously it's a little bit of a toss-up at this point right now.
Well, it's funny. I had a great read on the Pittsburgh Raider Sunday night game. I just didn't understand the love for the Raiders in that game. Home opener, I get it. I just thought the Steelers was the right side, and it was. I don't have a good read here, and I'm actually, as I was listening to you, starting to lean more to the Raiders side. And Lions came in on that Thursday and did whatever they want. Now, listen, I don't. I think people really have to realize this is a good Lions team. This
Oh, yeah.
isn't the Lions from the last decade. So the Aiden Hutchinson is the real deal. So if you can't protect your quarterback, like you said with Max Crosby here, if they can't keep him out of Jordan Love's grill, then it's going to be a long, long night. The Devontae Adams revenge game. Now with the Raiders going now to 1-point favorites, it's been going back and forth. Maybe Jimmy G is going to play. Are you going to be able to, everyone's done it so far, but I think a big factor too is Josh Jacobs can't run for 100 on you. Jordan, David Montgomery looked like Barry Sanders against you. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I am going back and forth on it. And another alarming thing, you said both team totals 22.5. That means first one to 2021 wins this game. Maybe 21-20, 21-17. I would like to see a shootout for fantasy purposes, but those team total numbers don't tell me we're going to get a shootout at the OK Corral.
No, maybe one team gets to 24, the other one's 17-20 or something like that at best, or something like that. No, I get it. No, I've got optimism as a team coming together as a whole, but there's some numbers that would make me more optimistic coming to this week against the Raiders that aren't quite there. So, but again, not totally doom and gloom as far as that is concerned either. So, Elk Jenkins coming back is key. If he's not there, then like you said, with Max Crosby and company, it could be a long night. But if Elton Jenkins comes back and is helping that left side of the line, that would help a lot. But obviously still TBD on a lot of these guys coming back this week for the Pack.
An amazing show. So good to be back with the not just Breakfast Bankroll, but the BIG10 review. We will be back obviously next Friday, same time, same bat station. If you're not following Riley, please go over to Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, to @Riley_Magnuson, the one. Everyone can follow me at EC Sports Invest. Any questions, comments, concerns, DM me. You can send us an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. Shout out to Connor and all the normal guys here having some coffee with us, talking some sports. Busy slate here on the East Coast Sports Investors channel today. 1 o'clock, Sean Childs talking DraftKings Millie Maker. 3 o'clock, 3 Men in a Box with Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills talking SEC and college football. And at 5 o'clock, as we always end Friday, with the closing bell with Mr. Ron at Ron A Sports, talking NFL and college as well. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Madison, the one. Shout out to the boys behind the glass again. Thank you guys. You're doing an amazing work. Shout out to our new partnership and sponsor, WagerWire. Zach, Travis, have safe travels leaving Sunday for a full week in Vegas. Look forward to talking to you guys early in the week for some plans for October and, of course, November, December. So from everyone, enjoy brunch, lunch. We'll see you soon.